Hi, I'm Tolulope Kolade, Tcode, an African voiceover artist from Nigeria, and this is my podcast, Everything Voiceovers, the African Perspective Podcast, where I take you on a journey to discovering industry insights through expert interviews, practical tips, and personal anecdotes.
You can simply call this your go-to resource for all things voiceover related. Buckle up as we discover the art, craft, and business of voiceovers through a uniquely African lens on this episode. Enjoy!
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Everything Voiceovers podcast, the African Perspective. This podcast is where you get to hear voiceover conversations from voiceover artists across Africa. And I'm your host, Tcode, and I'm ready to, engage another voiceover artist in Africa. Let's talk about voiceovers together. Like the previous episodes in this season so far, I've been talking to my voiceover colleagues here in Nigeria, and I have one of my voiceover colleagues too. We come way back. I don't know if I would say we started together, but we started the learning experience, about the same time, the same period. And it's been a great experience because we didn't just sign up for trainings, but we've seen ourselves grow over the years. So I'm very happy today to have on the podcast another female guest, one of the sweetest voices that I know in our industry. Like, I'm not capping, guys. And I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility, because I literally took, the last demo that was produced for her, I handled the production. And in handling the production, guys, listening to her voice was just incredible. I'm talking about no other person than Oiza. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Oiza. How are you doing, Oiza?
Hi, Tcode. I'm fine. I'm great. God has been good, so all glory to God. And thank you for that fabulous introduction. It blew me away.
Awesome. Happy to have you here too, Oiza.
Yeah.
How has it been going for you in the voiceover space? What's happening?
Well. It's been great, honestly, and I think for me it's been shocking, but on the good side. You're just having your day. I work in a radio station, so you're at work, and then you just get a message from somebody saying, "Oh, I found your stuff somewhere, and I need this. I need to work with you on this, on that." So it's also being a phase of revelation, getting revealed more and more, getting known better than you used to, and knowing things as well, knowing things that you probably didn't know a year or two ago, and applying them, and it's helping you. So it's been a potpourri of all of these things for me. Altogether, it's been great. Honestly, totally great.
Interesting. So I have another OAP stroke / voiceover artist. I'm not jealous, even though I miss it sometimes.
You left us now.
Yeah. Funny thing is, like 2 days ago, I was speaking to another. She's still an OAP, but she wants to come into voiceover. So she's trying to find her feet, and she felt like I'm the best person she could talk to. So there's that thing where in the radio space, you're doing well. Everybody keeps telling you have a great voice. You have a great voice. But you'll be so pained if you know that you have that voice and there's no extra way you can make money off it except for talking on radio. So shout out to you and me and every other person who does radio.
Thank you.
Also does
Thank
voiceover, even though some of us have left.
Yeah.
So how are you coping?
For radio? Yeah. So for radio, it takes beyond knowing the job. It takes beyond being good at what you do or being excellent at what you do to you becoming a business person, to you becoming a very curious person, making research, asking questions, seeking for answers and knowledge on what else can I do. So I'm somebody that I don't like to settle for less. I don't like to, I've always been very inquisitive about stuff. So if I'm doing this one way, I'm asking, okay, how else can I do this to get, if not much better results, or get the same results, right? So beyond just being on radio or being a broadcaster, it takes you as a person asking questions and seeking ways to use your voice just outside of radio. And that is why I think for some people, doing that could be a little difficult, because it takes not just work, it also takes knowing people. I mean, knowing people like Tcode, for example, knowing people that are doing well in the other industry you're eyeing, and then going out of your way to connect with them, going out of your own God sense, because you're a God in radio now, but this time you're moving away from an expert in radio to a novice in something else, something entirely different from radio. So going out of that space into a different space, it takes a lot of stuff, right? So maybe that could be a bit difficult for some people. But I shout out to the people who have been able to manage that and are doing great in other things outside of radio.
True. I was telling the lady the other day, I said, one of the challenges that I think I have identified for radio persons, two major challenges. One is how, because they're so used to using their voice, they would likely feel like, oh, come on, it's voiceover. I mean, we can do it. In fact, some claim to be voiceover artists already. I'm not saying that there's a certification, or an approval by some great voiceover artist that the person has to say, oh, now you're a voiceover. No. But the fact that you're a radio person doesn't mean you're a voiceover artist automatically. So that's one. And then, and that needs the humility to say, okay, this is another craft entirely, and I have to give myself to it and learn, just same way I learned broadcasting. The other thing is also trying to unlearn the things you've learned when it comes to voicing, because a lot of radio persons, there's just that default mode when they see a script and a mic is in front of them. So when you transit or transcend into voiceover,
transition.
Exactly. That's the word. Thank you. When you transition into voiceover, there's that tendency for you to attack or to approach every script that same way. So,
I had this challenge when I newly started. I'm sure if Kingi is watching this right now, he would say, yeah, that's true. I remember, I think it was my very first training with him, and he gave me a script and asked me to voice. And, as my radio person now, and I started voicing it, and it sounded all radio, So that's why I said it takes coming down from the horse of an expert to learning, to really being ready to learn and knowing that this is not just twisting your tongue. This is not just spree, as the case may be. This is a different act entirely, So when I did that, he said, nah, this is sounding like you're on radio. And naturally, I would have felt offended. Like, it's not, this is my voice. My voice is great at radio. Why would it be different in voiceover? But learning over time, I'm sure when I listen to my jobs now and I listen to my recordings from back then, even I can tell the difference. And that is the difference that learning can make for a person.
And when this thing that you just said, you mentioned it, or you wrote it in your book. So, by the way, Oiza is an author. I'm one of the very few authors in the voiceover space. Shout out to you. That's a very courageous thing to do. Right? I think I told you this early this year when I saw you publish the book, and I was congratulating you, and I was just telling you how partly imposter syndrome, and there's just this bogusness of, No, it's not bogusness. There's just this thing where I feel like it's a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
those things have kept me from writing and publishing, even though I'm in the middle of writing a couple of stuff right now. But I'm very, very big ups to you for putting these thoughts to paper, because a lot of us like to express it by our mouth. Yeah.
Honestly, so I have that challenge too sometimes. Yeah. When I have to, so as much as I'm doing well in voiceover, I also want to do well in broadcasting, right? Like I said, I don't settle for less. So when I have to make applications and these applications are asking you to write, it can be very difficult for somebody that's great at expressing with the voice and speaking. So I sometimes have that challenge too.
Yeah, but I think also the fact that you like reading is an
Mm-hmm.
advantage.
Helpful.
How I knew you like reading, I don't know if I should say love reading, is when I listened to you do audiobooks. That is something I would like to come to later, because that's another experience on its own. But I want us to start
Yeah.
from how you got into voiceover. What prompted your interest to this? Why did you think you can do it? And what steps did you take to start?
All right. So I think I told this story, a bit of it, in my book. So after school, I was waiting for service, and then I don't like to waste time. I don't like to be idle, just sitting down doing nothing. So I got the opportunity to intern at a radio station, an online radio station at the time. 3 months in, I got called up for service, and I found myself in Oshobo, Osun State capital, to be precise. So luckily for me, I would say, I got my PPA as a radio station. So I started serving there as a reporter. So I was posted to the newsroom. I write reports, go out for reports, and all of that. But I really wanted to do programs because having had the experience at the online radio station and the compliments that I got, I just felt like I think this is something I would love to do, with coupled with the fact that I had a background in mass communication. So it just adds up, right? So I did all I could, and one way or another, I got into the programs department. I started to co-host programs, read the news, and do all of that. So from there, it's moved to the producer or the head of productions, asking me to, where's Alpha? Voice the script now, and as far target. I would gladly voice it. I mean, the radio station I served is still the top radio station in Oshobo. So you had majority residents of Oshobo listening to you, and we had online platforms. So it felt like a great deal for me having my voice on the radio and my voice on the station IDs and all that. So from just voicing station IDs, it moved to voicing for this guy's personal projects. So he would have a project, he would give it to me and say, do this for me, and then give me like 2K or something afterwards. And I still felt great. I still felt great. I didn't know that I could use my voice to earn money as voiceovers at the time. I thought it was just radio where you get paid at the end of the month. But here I was doing a script and I'm getting paid. So it was really great. And then I did that for my period in Oshobo. After service, I moved back to Lagos and I was jobless for a while. So that period, I started to think, okay, there should be something I can do. What if I don't get a radio job eventually? What else can I do? And I think I was just scrolling through Instagram and I saw the voiceover workshop, and permit me to give kudos to the voiceover workshop for their social media presence. It's awesome, I, for one, am a testament to that I got to know them from social media. Then coincidentally, or luckily for me again, King E was a friend. I don't know if they're still friends, but at the time, he was a friend of someone I worked with, someone I call a boss in Lagos, in cinematography. So after service, I came back. I started going out with him as assistant anytime he has cinematography jobs. So when I knew that they were friends, I thought to myself, at the time, Voiceover Workshop was running a course that was 20,000 naira. 20,000 naira. And I did not have the money. I have spent.
This is funny on many levels. Not having the money, paying 20K.
You know,
Not in 2024
you
that you
know,
find
20,
voiceover course for
20 and
20K.
that 20K was even more than my alawi. I was receiving 98. So,
19.8. Okay.
so I didn't have the money. The only amount I could save all through my service year was 40K. And I had spent it in transporting, walking around. So I couldn't afford 20,000 naira and I wanted to enroll in this course. So I thought about what I could do, and I didn't know how to talk to Kingi because I didn't know him. I mean, he's just a convener, and I just couldn't go to him and say, I don't get money. So I thought, okay, let's leverage a relationship, right? Your network is your net worth, like they say. So I spoke with DOP Rotimi. His name is Mr. Rotimi. And I said, I want to do this course, but I don't have the money. So he asked me, how much do I have? What can I afford? I said, I can still afford 50%, which was a huge
Sacrifice.
It was a huge, yes, sacrifice on my part. But at the same time, I had to say it out of a lot of courage because I was thinking, who would give me a 50% discount? Will he even be willing to give me? But that was what I could afford. So I told him 50%, that's what I can afford. So he said, no problem, he'll speak with Kingi. And tada, he told me, oh, Kingi has accepted. I was so, oh my God, if I could still access my WhatsApp back then, the joy, the excitement that finally I did not even waste time. I think I made payments that day or the next day. I made payment immediately. I was very appreciative. I told him thank you. And that's how I got in for that course at the time. And trust me, I don't know if it is the same for other voiceover artists, but this is something that has worked for me over the years. When I put money into my voiceover business, I get returns. And when I say returns, I mean returns, right?
Yeah.
From paying 10,000 naira for a course, I graduated to paying by myself 30,000 naira for the master's course. So you know, within how. So when I tell people, I'm like, I don't know about other voiceover artists, but for me, it has worked for me time and time and time again. So when I have to put money into voiceover, I don't think it twice because I just know that voiceover is the multiplier for me, and it will just give me back the return. So that's how I got into voiceovers, and it's been a jolly ride since then. Story.
Oh Lord, that's a very, very nice story to hear. I want to ask you one question, one Ojuru type of question, right? So when I tell my own voiceover story, I get to that point where I'm like, after a while, I was getting tired of how I was being treated on radio, or it wasn't just so cool for me anymore. And I just felt like I'm earning more from voiceover than I'm earning from radio. So I could resign. Now, here's the question. You know where I'm going to.
Don't ask me if I resign.
I'm not asking you if you have resigned. All I'm driving at is I want to know how potentially what voiceover if you look at your income sources, right? If you look at voiceover versus you look at radio, I don't know if it's comparison now, but do you think that you can confidently one day say, may I just do? I mean, it's okay to have multiple streams of income these days. But
yeah.
If you want to look at it, can you say this voiceover thing that you've been doing, this voiceover craft, can feed you? Like it's been, good.
Absolutely. Yes. Like there's no ani about it. Like the Yorubas will say. I think I was in a conversation recently and I was telling people that I can literally beat my chest to say that all the things I've been able to do for myself, buy for myself, rent apartment, do this, do that, save, majority has been from voiceover. But let's not lie, radio has its perks too. I mean, being a broadcast journalist, I get opportunities to go for events or do other things. Okay, media relation, we want to do this on radio. Okay, this is the commission. Radio has that. But majority of my income, like the things I've been able to do for myself, has been from voiceover. So if I am to just, although I'm not going to decide, because I love radio, I love the fact that I get I get to, have my voice on air and just talk to people and just know that somebody is there listening. I'm the motivation they need, right? I love that fact about radio. But if I'm to resign right now and focus on voiceover and all that it has to give me, I would not bat an eyelid to do that because voiceover is worth it, honestly.
That's nice. And I'm jealous because
yes, it is.
You are chopping voiceover money and you're chopping radio money. So man, I'm feeling like, do you know how much I have missed out on, not doing radio for like, it's getting to 3 years now. Don't worry, my
radio is quite wide. Radio is quite big, and it has opportunities, right? It has opportunities depending on how you maximize them. Depending on how you maximize them. So on radio, you can be a journalist and you apply for fellowships or you apply for grants. You want to cover a story, or there's an event, an NGO is organizing an event and they want media people to be there. There will be luncheon or whatever. Okay, there will be tips and all that. I want to. So it has a number of those things like that.
You're making me miss the good old days, but anyways, shout out to radio. That's why you call yourself.
It is what it is.
The radio lady, the radio lady. We're done.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about your radio experience, how you're earning from radio, and now you've always called yourself the radio lady, right?
Yeah.
So it reminds me of my moniker then. So on radio, I used to call myself the radio genie.
Wow.
Yeah, it's T to the Code, your radio genie. Oh my! I used to do radio things a lot. Like I was crazy into radio. I took courses. I'd listen to radio stations across the world. I would read about radio people. I got radio books. I would read. Man, I mean, the thing is, whatever you find yourself doing, you do it very well.
Do it well. That is the mantra. So if you're doing this at the moment, if that is what you're doing, that you're living on, even if you don't really, what people say about, well, I'm not doing what I love, but that is what you're doing right now. Yeah. Just do it. And that's my thought when people say things about schooling, and their schooling, and it's like they're not paying attention to it. And I'm like, guy, you're not going to be in school forever. You're going to school for 4-5 years. But that is what you're doing right now. And the fact that when you're done with this, whatever you make out of this would mean a lot to the kind of, except for God's favor and grace, right? But it would have a great way of affecting your impact and your progress and success as life goes on. So why don't you just make sure that you focus on this 4 years that you have and come up with something, great, something good, something that makes sense. So whatever it is you find your hands doing right now, even though you love it or you don't love it, do it well. Because it may just be that open door to the next opportunity you're seeking.
Awesome. Thank you for that motivation.
Yeah.
So, speaking of whatever your hand finds doing, you've authored a book. I'm saving the book for the last, but you also, apart from doing voiceovers, you also coach or you teach voiceovers. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Okay, so I'll take it from my book aspect, right? And then, so what precisely led to me writing the book was I thought about when I nearly started voiceovers, enrolling for courses and all that. I yearned for more, so to speak. There were things that were coming my way that I didn't know how to attend to them. There were challenges, there were stuff coming at me, I just didn't know what was the best response to give. Of course, I had access to Kingi, but sometimes you just wish you could deal with those things yourself before you now begin to ask people for answers. And then I just feel like there will be people that are like I was now. There'll be people or young people, as the case may be, in that situation that I was years ago. So how do I make it easy for them? How do I come into the situation, and even if they don't find all the answers they need, they have a place to go to for answers. So that's what led to me writing the book, right? So when I meet with people, or when I get the opportunity to train people or coach people, I tell my students or trainees that beyond you seeing the glitters and the glams of voiceover artists, oh, I saw you on social media, I think you're so good, I want to be like you, or you see Tcode's coded voiceovers, you see Daza voiceover, you see Genius voiceover. These are my guys, by the way.
Yeah.
And you see all of those things, everybody's doing. Beyond all of that is the work that we all put in. And not just the work, the consistent work, the intentional work. And I give examples of how in my set, we were like 10 that did the course at the time. And honestly, not to shade anybody, or with all due respect to my colleagues, right, my friends or my course mates, as the case may be, I can pick out, those people that are still in the business. I mean, in the business, they are still doing it. And it's not to say that they are not ambitious or they don't like to make money. No, that's not it. Maybe they just couldn't feel the fire anymore, or they just got interested in another thing entirely, or they just felt like investing their time and resources and all of them into something else, which is great, right? But if you decide to do voiceovers, if you choose to do voiceovers, then you must be ready to do it. I think that is one thing I really emphasized on in my book. You must be ready to do it. You must be consistent, you must practice, you must go all out for knowledge, pay when you have to, It's not all the time, let me just glean from this person or these other persons. Pay for coaching sessions. If you need a personal coach, pay for personal coaches. If you need to pay for a course, or you need to subscribe, I am subscribed to a number of newsletters about voiceover, from Edge Studios to, there's another guy that I love so much, Dan Levine.
David,
I'm subscribed to things
Scott,
like that. That's
a lot of
how
people.
that's how you feel your interest, and that's how you find yourself still interested and you still want to do better, as much as you're inspired by the success stories of other voiceover artists. That is one thing I try to emphasize for my students, for people that I train, that now that you're coming to me, I love this, I want to be like you, I've had other people that will say, I want you to mentor me. I'll mentor you, but beyond my mentorship, it's still about you. It's still about what you want. It's because I don't know, if you mentor you, they make sure they wake you up 5 a.m. say, hey, Alpha, you don't practice, or you don't write scripts when you want to record. All of these things are still you. You are the one you have to do them. You have to choose to do them. Even if I hold you accountable, it is still your decision to make. So if I am able to set the foundation right like that, it becomes easy to get them to do the practicals, do the assignments, show up in class, and ask questions. Of course, not everybody they have trained would have to how do I put this now? do the nitty gritty. Some of the people already have the foundational knowledge, so you just have to fuel the fire with the motivation like that, and then it gets better as the day goes by. And you, after the classes, you are sure that okay, this is somebody that would get a script and would nail it.
So it's beautiful to know that you took this initiative to document some of these things in a book form that will assist students to, learn better and more efficiently. Because in our own case, we didn't really have books from Nigerian authors. So we were just doing, they provided a couple of materials. In fact, I was checking the house 2 days ago and I saw these scripts that the voiceover workshop provided when we were doing the voiceover masterclass.
Yeah.
Literally the 15-second
Yeah.
fairy tale sample script, the monologue.
Yeah.
Lagos.
Yeah.
No matter one tire me, if you remember.
Yeah, Lagos tire me.
The food brand.
Mm-hmm.
The food brand says nothing in the fridge and nothing in the cupboard. You're thinking about cooking, and then you remember
Yeah,
7-Eleven.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you, for real.
Yes.
I have a.
Wow.
Yeah, this is literally the schedule. It was the voice actor boot camp, and we had Choma BBB, King E, Mazino Appeal, Lord Frank,
Yes,
Eric
yes,
Ekweme,
yes,
Bella
yes,
Rose,
yes.
and
I think
Ahide
Bella
Adum.
Rose joined us online.
Yeah, same as Lord Frank. I think
Yes,
Ahide as
yes.
well. So we saw Mazino
Yes.
in person. These are
Mazino was there
memories.
live.
Yeah, it was. And when you think about it, these are people who are like big top dogs in the industry.
Oh geez.
Oh geez.
Yes.
So hearing them alone just busts your brain. I still have pictures that we took with Choma BBB, Eric, and all of that. So beautiful memories. And I want to take this time to also say thank you to these people. They've sown huge seeds in us, and that's why some of us are this passionate, and we believe in voiceover, and we are also as we grow, doing what we can to inspire the next set of people to take it up and continue fostering. And shout out to you too for writing a book. I don't think anybody has done it.
Thank
like I said
you.
before. I was reading your book recently, so let's just talk a bit about the book because of our time. What should people expect when they read the book? Like, what's the content, and then how can they find it?
So, like I said earlier, the book was birthed out of the fact that I thought back to when I started voiceovers and realized that there were some things I just really needed to know, right? Especially before I enrolled for the course with King E. I didn't know anything about voiceover. The scripts I got while I was 7, I just did them based on my own knowledge of communication, my knowledge of radio, right? And the guy at the time thought it was great, it was suitable, and he used it. But professionally, I didn't really have the knowledge I needed. So I needed access to knowledge. I needed to know. And that was the quagmire I found myself at the time. So I felt there are people like me, or like I was at the time, who are like that now and are seeking for knowledge. And then another thing that prompted me to write the book was I also thought about the situation I found myself at the time, being unable to pay for a course, and I had to ask for a discount. So I realized that now people reach out to me asking to be mentored, asking to be trained, asking for one-on-one coaching sessions. And when I tell them my price, they go, they go AWOL, or you just don't hear from them anymore. So I thought, okay, how do I break down this knowledge so that it becomes accessible, and not just accessible, but affordable as well? So those two reasons really or those two things were the inspiration behind the book, and I just felt I had to do it. And entering in the year 2023, it was part of my goals for the year. So I knew that it was either I write it or I write it. There was no turning back. Part of, I guess it was because of that resolution I had, that despite the delays that occurred, eventually it came out in December. So I just needed to do that, and that was what birthed the book. So when you get a copy of the book, you see me talking about my experience with Kingi, my journey into voiceover. You see me breaking down exactly what voiceover or voice acting is, right? Is there any difference between the two? You see me talking about consistent practice. I think if I'm to do a search or a control F of that word in that book, I think it would be the most frequent word in the book: practice. I mentioned it a lot. Practicing. So you see me really hammering on it. You see me really hammering on intentionality, why you need to not just want to be a voiceover artist, but decide and make up your mind to consistently do the work needed and required of you. You see me talk about the different genres of voiceover, from audiobook to commercials to narration, corporate narrations to animation. In fact, you see me talk about the love of my life, not a man, audiobooks.
Okay.
So you see me talk about audiobooks, and the why I like it. And honestly, I still think audiobook is like the easiest money making genre of voiceover. Although there are a number of people that think otherwise.
Because you are
audiobook and documentary.
You are a cheat code in this industry when it comes to audiobook. Like, guys, I need to stop you here when you are talking about audiobook. This wasn't just my opinion. It was King E and I being very surprised. You had this audiobook project that was like, was it 2-3 years ago or so? And you came to the voiceover workshop. I was there at the time.
I think it was 2022.
Oh, And only for you to enter into the studio, we were like, okay, she wants to do audiobook. Let's see how far she's going to go. And we left. And you stayed there for 4 hours straight, reading. There was no ventilation. I'm like, what? And you know the crazy thing, because I personally, I was the one who produced the project. Kingi was the executive producer. You were hardly making mistakes. I was like, how did you do it? No. It's your thing. It's your sweetheart.
See, honestly, if we had, I look forward to industry expanding and really making room for more projects coming in and breaking out. Really, I love audiobooks because beyond you doing your job as a voiceover artist, it's also an opportunity for you to read. I am particularly looking forward to reading an educational book. A book that educates you maybe about a subject matter or something. So it's not just me reading for the money. It's me reading and getting the knowledge about that subject matter.
I love
so it. If you get the book, you see me talk about audiobooks, you see me talk about other genres, and you also see me mention places or methods through which you can get jobs as a voiceover artist, particularly a beginner voiceover artist. And another very important thing is I emphasized on putting yourself out. You cannot afford to be vague in this part of the world, in this industry, right? You have to be known. You cannot afford to be unknown, right? So what are those things you need to do to put yourself out on social media, for example? social media is the world right now. So if you're a voiceover artist and you don't have an Instagram page, or we don't even know you exist on social media, then there's a problem. So I talked about that in the book. And yeah, amongst other things, right? And as a future move or a future action, I am thinking about doing an improved version of the book. So this time it would not just be for beginners, but it would be like a pro version of the book. And I'm also looking forward to featuring fellow voiceover artists in the industry so that we can all come together, share our knowledge, and you can glean from it.
Beautiful, beautiful idea. Before I talk about that, let me make a shout out to you people who are the audiobooks Avengers in the VO industry. I know you, I know Danley, I know Sarah Johnson.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you guys are like phenomenal.
Yeah.
Shoma BBB, that's
Yeah.
like our mother.
Yeah. So let me just chip this in.
Yeah.
When Clubhouse used to be it, I'm not saying it's not it
Yeah, I
anymore,
remember.
but when it used to rain,
I
I think
know
it
what you're
was
talking
during
about.
the lockdown period, there was this room on Clubhouse that I belong to. Chima BBB
I
belongs to
know
that
it.
room too, and it's a book reading room.
Yeah.
You join. I think it was every Friday. We used to have the hangout there, and you just listen to somebody reading. It's just fun.
Yeah, I've been in the room before. I've heard Choma read and one other lady, and I'm like, this
Yeah,
is nice, right? But I mean, shout out to you guys at the audiobooks. And to your,
it's part of my inspiration
do you get
for
Choma has
audiobooks.
inspired even me?
Yeah, I used
Yeah,
to follow her
yeah.
series on
We get inspired
Instagram
by these
where she
people.
did. I mean,
So I would say that it's very commendable to also do an improved version of the book. It's something that I look forward to
thank you.
seeing in the near future. And this takes me back to what I always say about industry growth. If your superpower is, I mean, we are voiceover artists, but we're not just voiceover artists. We also do other things. So if your superpower is to write, do something intelligent with the voiceover industry and come up with, materials that people can read and it will be very impactful. And if your superpower is some other thing, right?
Again,
Maybe
not again.
journalism, like I podcast and I teach. So do
Oh.
something in that regard. All right, guys. So it's a podcast and I'm recording
Oh, you're back.
virtually. So we're having some network issues, but Oiza is back.
We
Finally.
apologize.
Welcome back, Oiza.
Apologize. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
Oiza,
I mean,
can you?
it's. I can hear you. I hope you can hear me.
Great, fine. I can hear you too. So I was just commending your efforts to put the book together and even going further for the next phase. And I was saying that it's your superpower to be able to write. Some of us, our superpower is be able to podcast. Some people,
Yeah.
different people with their superpowers.
Yeah. Honestly, that one is for Tcode. Consistently podcast, by the way. I started in podcast in 2020. I think I only did like 4 episodes. So, but there's another podcast I've been running. I cannot give up on that one because there are eyes on me, right? But when you talk of being, I think Tcode is just self motivating. That self motivation has kept him consistent with Everything Voiceovers podcast. So yeah, big ups to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my. What other thing I want to ask you? I'm not sure if I have found. I mean, if I've not asked you anything else, but what would you tell to someone? You've literally been talking about things that you would advise people who are just starting voiceover. So, talk about where you see the voiceover industry in the next couple of years in Nigeria.
Okay, so like I said earlier, I I'm glad, first of all, that we are becoming closely knitted in the voiceover industry in Nigeria. Few days ago, the Voice Fest held, and I saw pictures on social media, and it's sad that I couldn't be there. But I saw pictures, and I'm like, okay, now this is what I'm talking about. When you see a picture of people in the industry, and you literally point out majority that that is to tell you that we're becoming closely knitted as an industry. And I think that is great. I look forward to us becoming, really closely knitted, that we become like this.
Yeah.
It is, when we become like this, it becomes easy to pull through things and navigate, pave way as well. I make reference to I was having a conversation with another creative, and we were just talking about collaborations, and she made reference to the skit makers, comedians. She said she was watching a YouTube channel, and she was watching an interview of a top comedian, and the person talked about how they have a WhatsApp group where they literally drop G's, at some point when they were almost regulated by the government, they all unanimously decided to do something that stopped that move, things like that. So I look forward to us becoming very, very closely knitted as an industry. And with that, we can make big moves. We can do great things as professionals, and not just for us that are already professionals, even for people coming on board as well. It becomes easy for them to get used with the industry. You know that there is a place you can easily go to for anything at all that you need, and they've got your back. So yeah, that is one major thing that I look forward to. More unison, more unity in the industry. Yeah. And I also look forward to more international collaborations. I know that we already have some voiceover organizations, doing that, but who says it cannot be more? Who says we cannot have more international buddies collaborating with more Nigerian or African organizations to do greater works like Iwaju, for example, and much more creative works like that. I feel like we have a whole lot to give, a whole lot to offer, that we cannot just keep it in the nooks and crannies of Nigeria or Africa.
Yeah.
The world cannot wait to have us.
I agree with you, Oiza. So that will lead me to talk for a couple of minutes about a few stuff. Like personally, collaboration and unity has been something that I cherish so much, and that's why I go from state to state. Every state that I arrive in, I find voiceover artists in that state in Nigeria. I try to collaborate with them, mix up. We have good conversations. So I've been doing that. Last month I was in Abuja. It was a very great time talking to voiceover artists in Abuja. In fact, we had a hangout, the Abuja Voiceover Hangout, and it was beautiful seeing people's perspective of what voiceover is to them. And we were able to enlighten each other. Then we created a group chat, and it's been beautiful since then, right? So there's the Abuja Voiceover community right now, and my last trip, in Lagos, I was at the Voiceover Academy. I went there with David, Attar, and John.
I saw what you guys did
with Femi, and it was beautiful to see all of us come together. It wasn't anything like
honestly,
for Voiceover Workshop and for Voiceover Academy. So no, we were all just like guys relating and having good fun, right?
It felt like
exactly
home.
So there's that thing that I feel like we need to encourage amongst ourselves, where we come together. And speaking of which, you also mentioned international collaborations. Literally, for those who don't know yet, there is now going to be Africa Voiceover Day. And that's like,
Yes, yes. Thanks to Association of African Podcasters and Voice
okay,
Artists.
so
Yes, yes,
I'll try to
yes,
correct that,
yes.
right? Yes, the African Association of Podcasters and Voiceover Artists, we are also behind the movement, but it's not about APVA, it's not about the association. It's actually coming together of different bodies and individuals who are, who are influential in the voiceover industry in Africa across nations. And we all came together and said it's high time that we had an African voiceover day, because we used to have
Voiceover
voice
Day.
day voiceover. The voiceover day we know is in the US. Then there's voice day, which is just like everybody who has a voice. So we came together to, we held meetings and we contributed ideas and everything. So it's beyond APV. I just wanted to make that clear. So I'm privileged to be a part of this movement, and this podcast will be published on Friday. I think Friday would be the 3rd of May. Yeah.
Third,
So
yeah.
on the 5th of May is officially Africa Voiceover Day. And that, yeah, that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this on Friday or on Saturday before the D-Day, you can be a part of the event. We're actually starting with a launch event that will happen in the evening of that day, which is going to be a virtual event. You'll have people, voiceover artists across Africa. I'll be hosting the event. You have Chilulemba from South Africa, Zambia. You have
Jennifer Canary.
Jennifer
Sorry.
Canary from Kenya. You have Leslie Kasumba from Uganda, South Africa. You have Emeka Onunkwo from Nigeria, Sheun Shubo, King E, both from Nigeria. You have Remi Olutimaya, also from Nigeria, Bidemi from Nigeria, Nadim, Nadim from Egypt. That's Nadim Khalid from Egypt. Did I miss anybody? This kind of thing, you don't miss anybody, so that. But the flyer is out there. I'm gonna drop the link to the event registration in the show notes. So I just needed to mention that everybody is invited, voiceover artists across Africa and even outside the continent. We'll just the theme of this year's event is Voices of the Future, and there's also a website to that effect. That's www.africavoiceoverday.com. So guys, I want you to be a part of the event. Now, there are a couple of other things that I would like to inform you all. Right now, Oiza isn't on my screen anymore, and I know that's thanks to network and stuff. But the podcast continues, definitely. Oiza was talking about collaboration, and I recall many times that I would have voiceover gigs, or rather, maybe a client reaches out to me and wants me to do a gig as the male voice, but is thinking of the female voice to use, and I'll literally reach out to Oiza and we work together. And the reason why I'm talking about this story is because the main reason why I would reach out to Oiza, aside the fact that she has a great voice, is also the fact that I can bank on her recording or audio quality. She would not disappoint. Aside just working from radio or on radio, Oiza invested in audio equipment, and she has a studio setup. So that's really impressive. And I have heard voiceovers, and they are great, right? So this is to encourage, people who are interested in voiceovers or who are growing gradually. A time comes when you need to start investing in voiceover equipment. I know it's not cheap, but even if you cannot afford to buy, take it very serious that your audio should be clear. All right, go to a studio and do what you need to do with professional recording gear and all of that. So shout out to Oiza. So that's just to say that if I'll be collaborating, I'd always want to ensure that whoever I'm collaborating with or whoever I'm referring for a voiceover job can deliver in terms of quality. All right, so that's just something I needed to mention on the podcast. So it's been a great time with Oiza. I was hoping that we could end this together, but as it stands, it's just me. And network had its thing. Also, I should let you guys know that Oiza's voice is the voice that you hear at the beginning of my podcast, or the second voice you hear, because my voice is the first one, and Oiza's voice comes or follows. So you can find her at I think Oiza Deborah on Instagram. Anyways, I'm gonna put all of that in the show notes, and you can, when you reach out to her on Instagram or on LinkedIn, you can also request for how you can get the book. I was hoping that she would say that, but with the network issues right now, I'm here to give the information. So that's it, guys. Thank you all for being a part of this episode today. It's been a great one, talking about voiceover radio consistency and collaboration across the African continents with the Africa Voiceover Day. I look forward to the Africa Voiceover Day. I hope you do too. And next week, I will be giving you guys the gist about how Africa Voiceover Day went. Right? Right. So I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for being a part of this conversation today. And have yourself a great, great weekend. Bye.